Hi there, it's Todd introducing Asana, which is a program management software that is used by great companies all over the world like Google, Avon, Harvard University, PayPal, the PGA Tour, the New Yorker, countless sports teams, hundreds of thousands of small, medium-sized, and large companies all over the world. It's free and it's intuitive, easy to use. If you can fall off a log, you can use Asana. So what does it do for you? You never miss anything. You never miss a task, a call, a meeting. You'll make way fewer errors. So much time is wasted just looking for things, trying to connect with people, understanding what's to do next. Harvard University did a study one time and said that for every minute you spend planning a project, planning your day, you get back 12 minutes in productivity. And I think that's low because you're making fewer mistakes. You're not spending time looking for documents, for connecting with people, wondering what tasks should be done next. So with Asana, right at your fingertips, you have every team member, every document, every conversation, all of your calendars that are relevant right at your fingertips. It keeps everyone personally connected and responsible for the tasks they need to do. And if you follow best practices of Asana, you'll reap all of the amazing benefits that come with it. So all day, every day, everyone on the team is holding Asana in their hand. It's not only a desktop application, but it's an easy-to-use app that shows you exactly what you're doing. So from start to finish, when you first touch base with a customer for the first time to when you finally get paid and put the money in the bank, every step along the way can be organized by Asana. By the way, before we get into it, there's plenty of help and tutorials. There's a lot more to this than I'm going to show you right now. You can become a black belt in this. Little tips and tricks. But we're going to start off with just the basics, and that's plenty to get started with. There's no end to your growth. So before we get into looking at the screen and seeing what Asana is, I want to mention the importance of the morning meeting. It's a crucial part of Asana. Now, I've already mentioned best practices, such as checking your email, looking at your tasks, your calendar. There's certain things that you'll be doing. We'll go over that later. But the morning meeting is where you take your projects that are in progress, or the PIP part of the program, and everyone looks at it and sees what is coming up that day. So in an Asana meeting, two key things happen. You have a to-do list that is up to the second and in the right order, and everyone is synced up together in the whole organization. And second of all, the second thing that comes out of this is the Asana program itself. All of the details are brought up to speed. This is the beauty of Asana. It doesn't just organize a project. It's constantly changing as things are being done, as priorities are being changed. If a customer calls in and moves a deadline, no problem. We can adapt to any change at any time. Let's begin by looking at Asana. It's a desktop and it's an app. You simply sign in at asana.com and your page will show up. Top left-hand corner, you have your tasks, which is the main thing, inbox. And down here, you'll see all of your projects. Every time you start a project, you start with a template. I have one here for just a basic sign and one here for a GC. Let's open it up. Now at the top, you'll see a list. This is for the person who's making the project, who's organizing it. There are no tasks in this area. It's simply an overview. For example, you have the job deadline, the setup, the production in progress, installation, and vendors. To get the details on any task, just click right here. Notice over on the right-hand side, there's no due date on this. Everything in Asana works with due dates. If it doesn't have a due date and an assignee, it will not show up on anybody's task. So everything has to have a due date, even if the due date is simply an intention. So you click on that, you select a due date. You can even, down here, you can select a time. You can tag it. Tags are very powerful. You can search by tags. Every time you click on this, all of your milestones will show up on the screen. A milestone is an unmovable deadline. One of the most powerful aspects of Asana is the fact that it brings the team together. You can actually add what's called collaborators. Here, we'll click and we'll add me. I'm the only person in this system. So if you see here, it's assigned to me, and today at 3:30 is a deadline. You can add notes, which by the way will show up here, and you can tell the task the status. Is it not started, underway, on hold, or completed? There's more room to add descriptions. This, by the way, is one of the most important best practices, is great task description. Use keywords, tags, files. A key part is making a task actionable, is to continue the discussion with the assignees. Good communication will ensure the job gets done to your satisfaction. Always remember to write good, thorough descriptions for all tasks. That's part of good management. And never be vague. Even titles for tasks should be well thought out. And always be thinking, is this actionable? I'll come back to the right side of the screen in a minute. Let's move down to this part, management. As I said earlier, the template is set up so you go from top to bottom. The first part is to plan the project, set up a folder system, prepare permits, acquire permits, call before you dig with Julie, and invoice the job. Setup, meet with the customer, go look over the job with a survey, estimate it, get the approval. Once something is approved, you go to the production in progress, or PIP. A sketch is drawn, it's approved, art is produced, and then it's fabricated. Then you move on to installation. Pulses are a group of activities that tend to connect you with vital people, architects, GCs, vendors. And down here you have a group of tasks that are non-active. By the way, if you want to get rid of something, just right mouse click on it and delete it. These things, such as get a bond certificate, certificate of insurance, a tax form, or a lien waiver, can literally be dragged and dropped where they belong. That task can be brought up into, say, management and tucked in here beside the Julie. Now let's get back to the right-hand side. Do a sketch. Here's one with some subtasks. Click on it. It's unassigned. You can send it over to me to draw it. Put a due date on. Say Tuesday. You want to see that drawing. It's a production in progress. It's under assigned projects template. It's not started. But once I see it on my task list, it'll show up on my task list because I'm assigned to it. That's the beauty of this. You can assign me work. You can put a deadline on it. Not all deadlines are equal. Some are called milestones, meaning they're a deadline that cannot move. Come over to here, the column where it says Wednesday, right mouse click, and mark it as a milestone. And once you make something a milestone, you'll see it up here at the top. This is a milestone deadline, meaning it can't move. You'll see that certain tasks are called dependent. For example, you can't install a sign before it's fabricated. The installation is dependent on the fabrication. The fabrication is dependent on design. The design is dependent on an estimate. Those dependencies are automatically built into the flow of the template. A little bit more about what's going on here on the right-hand side. You can add a subtask. For example, under Sketch, you can design the sign, send the sign to the GC. You can keep adding subtasks. Up here, you can add this task to other projects you have on the go. So just to review, when something is coming up, you can click on it. It shows up on the right-hand side. You assign it to someone, put a due date on it, determine whether or not it's a milestone, take notes, add a good description, expand on the task with subtasks. These are things that have to happen for this to be accomplished. And down here, you can speak to anyone who's connected as a collaborator. You can add collaborators from outside the company, such as vendors. Many companies that use Asana say they barely use their email anymore. Almost all of their inter-office communication is done through Asana. So that's how a typical sign project template will start off, going from the top to the bottom. Now, if you work on this, say you're in the art department, the way you'll use Asana is mainly through the tasks that emerge from art production. If you work in the back fabricating signs, the way you see Asana will be through this right here, fabrication. Now let's go over here to the other template I made, GC template. So once you start a template, general contractor's template, see these 3 dots? Click on them and duplicate the project. Give it a new name. There. That's simple. Now there's a new job called Brian's Building. It's creating it right now. Now the difference between a typical sign job and a GC template is simply that we include this module here for bidding. There's the setup. You can review the bid. You can review addendums, create the sign type schedule, the room schedule. Then you can make up an estimate, and then you submit the bid. Once you get the job, you move to management, where you plan the project, gather information on branding, prepare the permit, acquire the permit, the Julie, and then invoice it. This is the management tasks, the big picture. Here we have a setup. When you actually start doing the job, you meet with the customer, do a survey, estimate the job, and get it approved. Then you hand it off to the sketch department. It gets approved. Then it goes to production, and then fabrication. Installation. Is there a prevailing rate slip or any other task that you care? Say you need to build a masonry wall, a base, put up posts, whatever. You can add different tasks here all you want. Pulses. These are mainly separate communications with the GC, the subcontractor, architect, or the vendors. And again, you can add or subtract them. Again, to subtract, you just simply right mouse click and delete the task. And like the typical sign project template, at the bottom, you have separate things. These are things that are not active. So when you're managing, you use the overview to guide you through the different steps. The big idea is to keep the status always updated. You go into the right-hand side by clicking on the item. You assign the people that are involved. You put due dates down for that particular task. Use your tags. Write any notes. Keep track of your status. Write good descriptions and any subtasks that are necessary to make this happen. And of course, down here, you can collaborate with people and speak with them, ask questions. And with that in mind, let's move over to the top left-hand corner here where it says Inbox. Your communication with other people inside Asana will show up here. The first item in best practices, check your inbox. Communication is happening all the time in Asana. By the way, I recommend you disable activity updates in the profile settings of your email. That means once you've checked something or dealt with it, it's archived. By the way, Asana has a great archive. When you're done with a job, it archives it. It's never lost. And here's your tasks. Click on this, all your tasks come here. They show up as a list, but you can also see your items as calendar events. Back to tasks. The second best practice is to keep up with Asana by keeping up to date, by checking off completed tasks. When you're done something, check it off. Sometimes the project manager will want to know when the task is completed, but it's the one who does the work. And this is so important. This is something that people ask about Asana. The one who's doing the work should mark it as complete. Use the My Tasks page. I'd say this is the number 3 item on the best practices list. Become familiar with the way you can view your tasks in this mode. I introduced you to 2 of them. One is simply the list, and the other is the calendar. I suggest you use both. The 4th item in best practices, and let's go back to, let's say, the sign project template. We're going to plan a project. You open it up here. We live and die by due dates. If it doesn't have a due date, it's never going to show up in My Tasks. Remember that My Tasks, the best way to think about My Tasks is your to-do list for the day. I have a few things in My Tasks. You can click on here and it will divide them up by projects or by due date. Whatever you click here, that's how your My Tasks will separate themselves out. Let's go back to this. Say you're setting up a bid. Click here, assign it to someone, set a due date. Go over here and right mouse clicks. Say you set a due date here. Let's pick me. Due date for Wednesday. Right mouse click here and turn it into a milestone. Bidding is usually a milestone. A bid is given a specific day and sometimes a specific time. And no matter what task you're setting up, this is number 5 in best practices. Write great, thorough descriptions for all tasks. Never be vague. Even the titles you choose for tasks should be well thought out. And always be thinking, is this actionable? Never forget to use this part here, descriptions. Make your descriptions and your keywords and your tags work for you. Remember, up here you can search Asana. Great descriptions open up conversations, so take advantage of those things. You want things done to your satisfaction. You want to work with your team. You want your descriptions, your keywords, even your titles to be clear. And don't be afraid to use subtasks. When you're doing a bidding setup, look at all the different actions you can take. These are subtasks. Be strategic in assigning your tasks. Even these subtasks have to be assigned and given a deadline. This is the new habit. Follow the template. Assign tasks. Set up deadlines. Follow your tasks. Always be looking at your inbox. And don't be afraid to communicate with others. Everyone on the team, that is everyone you've called to be a collaborator, can be communicated with right here on the bottom right-hand side. This conversation is associated with this, the bidding setup. So yes, some effort has to be put in to build and maintain a project. But with this comes massive efficiencies, far fewer mistakes. And that means happier customers and more profit. Smooth communications means a happier workplace, less frustration. And let me leave you with one last thing. This is a great feature of Asana. In the sign business, we work in a world of documents, sketches, logos, drawings. Asana easily clicks into OneDrive SharePoint, or you can attach something from your computer. This means you never look for a document again. You attach it to the task, and the link is always available. The deadlines, the people, and the documents are all at your fingertips. Every person on the team is synced up. They all have access to a to-do list that is in order all the time. And anybody, from anywhere, even their cell phone, can reach out to other members of the team. The templates, these steps that are on the left-hand side here, simply keep the physical movements of planning, designing, fabricating, and installing a sign in perfect order. And if you're quoting on bids, it adds this section here to help with that. Once you see the power of Asana, you'll see why the biggest companies in the world use it. And like I said, go to YouTube, type in Asana tutorials, and learn more.